Hello and welcome to our next video. In this lesson, we are going to do a quick little exercise to show us how we can actually export our own code into a package or a jar, and then use that jar inside other projects. This is a way that we can encapsulate our code and archive it, and it allows us to reuse code within other projects and not really expose that code while giving other people the ability to use it. It's also handy if we have common stuff that we're going to use throughout multiple projects, and we just want one way to share it without having to keep copying Java files everywhere. So you'll need O104, creating and working with a utility package, and O105, working with a utility package. Technically, we could have done O105 from the ground up, but I wanted to save a little time. So I have all the code in place. If you want to take the time to walk through it, that's perfect. So how do I create a jar file? It's very easy in Eclipse. So if you're not using Eclipse, you probably won't do this very often, but once you're using Eclipse, you could. So here I'm going to export, and so what I'm going to do is go to Java jar file. So I've got my project O104, I'm exporting a Java jar file. So I want to select that one. And what I'm going to do is actually make sure that my source file is not in here. Now, if you wanted to pass your source file on to other people that they could modify, you certainly are welcome to do that. In our case, we're not going to do that. Now, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to export this right into my C Java projects folder, and I'm going to put it in a folder called libraries. Now, if you don't have that, of course, you would just go out to your Java projects, wherever you're storing your projects, and create a libraries folder or some common folder somewhere that you can easily access, because obviously we want this to be accessible across projects. We don't want to put this in a specific project folder. And actually when we import it in a second, we'll show how that will happen for us anyway. So to line up with the name of my package here, I'm just going to call this com.company name. So I'm going to go ahead and export that. I'm going to go ahead and let it compress it, all that jazz. Overwrite without warning. I'm assuming I'm updating every time, so I'm going to go ahead and check that as well. You could go in here and do more stuff, but we don't need to worry about that. And so that's done. Now the next thing I need to do is go to O105 and import it. So just like when we brought in the library for JUnit, we need to configure our build path to allow us to have our file. So we need to add an external jar. And we're going to browse directly to our C drive or wherever our Java projects are on our machine and bring in com.companyname.jar. Now, the project already referenced it because I had built it on my other machine. So let's go ahead and remove that because we see that's missing. So if you ever see that, you could either make sure your stuff lines up. We could have actually just, edited that one and browsed to the correct one. I'm going to remove it. That way we have our correct one in place. We notice now the exclamation point goes away. Our program, very easy to use now. com.companyname.star. Does that look familiar? java.util.star? It should. So what we've done is we've created our own code package. Now we can imported it and anybody can use it. So what I've done here is just done a couple real quick tests, but I want to point out, because of the fact that it is static, we don't need to do code like utilities, my utilities, equals new utilities, my utilities dot null safe equals. So this may be what you're used to doing, and you could technically do this. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem with this is that we don't need to, and we created it static for that very reason. We can just call directly to utilities, and in fact, if I were just to go here, utilities, I can dot on it already and see my 3 static methods already in place. Let's just do that so we can have that nice and handy. You can see that work. And so utilities.nullSafe equals, nullSafe string equals, and of course we got our print stars now at the top. So we're doing some equals ignore case, and there's another reference to print stars there too. So let's go ahead and run this program. Run as Java application. And we can see our utilities working great. We have our names false, true, and we have true. So you can see here where we have some nulls. We're passing them in so that we can compare And if we didn't use a null safe equals and tried to compare nulls, we would get a null pointer exception. So that wraps up our look at creating a jar and putting that jar into another project to use. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.